Welcome to Wisdom Journey, the podcast where we explore the path of building an online business from the ground up. Here, I share my wins, struggles, lessons, and experiments so you can learn, adapt, and grow alongside me. I also interview experts in their respective field. Whether you're just starting out or looking for new strategies to scale, this is your space to find inspiration and practical wisdom. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to take you on today's journey. Today, on the Wisdom Journey podcast, I'm joined by Addie Ott, an author, multidisciplinary creative, and the heart behind Gentle and Lowly Co. Addie's work blends storytelling, design, and faith in a way that helps people slow down, breathe, and reconnect with what truly matters. She's currently writing her second book on prayer, hosts the Gentle and Lowly Co podcast, and creates spaces for honest conversations about friendship, purpose, and working with Jesus in everyday life. In this episode, we'll dive deep into how to build a simple, flexible visual identity, choosing colors, type, layouts that are both legible and accessible, and most importantly, rooted in authenticity and faith. Welcome to the podcast, Addie.
Hey, Wisdom, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here with you and all our friends listening.
Yeah, before we get started, I'd love for you to take us back a little back to how your creative journey began. Was there a moment you realized design could be an act of faith and service, not just aesthetics?
This is such a great question, Wisdom. And if we go way back, most of us, I feel like our creative journeys, they might have started when we were a lot younger, when we were kids and we were just learning and just being naturally creative. I think all of us have those things and we have those passions inside of us. And so design, specifically graphic design, didn't come until it was more further in my journey in college or university. But really that first time, Wisdom, where I was creative or felt like that, where I was like, oh, wait, maybe there's something more here, was a high school photography class. And so I was in high school, where it was the first year in high school for me over here. And that was freshman year. And it was just such a breath of fresh air where I knew I couldn't really draw. That wasn't my specialty. But I had some friends in this photography class and I could use a camera. I love that. And I just had a different eye of how I could capture and see things. And I'm really grateful that through the encouragement of teachers to encouraged me, that that skill grew and that there was something more there. But of course, with all of us, sometimes we doubt the creativity that we first have. But then, through that encouragement, with friends, family, or different peers, or our professors and teachers, people who pour into us, that is like the most important thing. So definitely there. And then university, I went to school for photography and then eventually added my minor graphic design all the way my junior year of university or college. And that changed everything for me, Wisdom. I saw just kind of this creative world in a whole new light where you can use the photography, the copy, the writing, the graphics, the design, where it all kind of comes together into this beautiful picture. And then also just seeing design as service. That's a huge thing I've learned over the past, I feel like almost decade now of just practicing this.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Addie.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, in the digital age, visuals often speak before we do. How can believers and purpose-driven brands make sure their visual identity reflects truth and humility, not just trendiness?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Yeah, there is so much that goes on into a brand and that tone, that voice, all of those things. And really, the brand is just so much more than just a logo. It has a heartbeat and a purpose, and there's just a community that can be formed through it, which is incredible power of design.
Well, when we've been throwing around the word visual identity, what exactly is visual identity? What does it compose of?
This is such a great question too. I love this so much because when I think about visual identity, usually like I would just ask people to think about what are one of your favorite brands that you go to all the time. Maybe it's that morning coffee. You always go to this place, right around the corner, this cafe. For us over here in America, that is either Starbucks, Dunkin', or your little like mom and pop local roastery. And for me, that's like Main Street Roasters. And there's this experience, there's all these different like levels of hierarchy where if we break that down, there's all these different levels of structure, if you will, that really compel and tell a compelling visual story. So from the moment you maybe see an ad on a billboard outside in the world to maybe an ad on social media, but also just like all these different touch points to when you go inside and they take your order, or you use a mobile app and they, call out your name and they spell your name correctly because of the app, right? There's all these different touch points. But visual identity, it is really essential to be clear on the heartbeat and kind of the mission that you want to create within your logo, your color, your font, your typography. All of those things matter. But if you can't translate that into a captivating or memorable experience that has a heartbeat, that where your brand is like a lifeline to people, then it can just be colors and fonts and a logo that falls flat. And so for me, when I really think about a visual identity wisdom, you have to go back into, I feel like, culture, into history, and do your research of what is shaping culture right now. Where are we seeing different trends move to the left or to the right? And being kind of educated and culturally aware, where you can bring this research even from like ancient, just like this history of different colors that convey trust, colors that convey warmth or friendliness. There's all these different things. And so it's sometimes our temptation is to just, oh, I want to design the logo. I have the name. I have it all. I'm like already done. We just want to start this business. But
Yeah.
I would caution you to like pump the brakes and be like, hey, do this research, talk with your client, like talk with yourself through the client, and actually get this inventory to make sure everything that you're building is rooted in something that has this context that really can connect it back to people, where it's going to move people forward towards something rather than just be more noise in a sea of so many ads and marketing.
Yeah. A lot of times when creators want to design your visual identity, when they want to design their visual identity, they struggle with perfectionism. They're stuck on that process. How do we balance excellence with grace in how do you balance excellence with grace in your own design process?
Oh man, that's such a good question. But even, yeah, what you touched on, wisdom of like that perfectionism with designers specifically, oh man, it is so real and so hard. But if
Yeah.
you're in a corporate setting, I feel like you kind of get used to this a little bit more, where you turn something in for review. There's usually in the task or in the project, at least for my case, there have been multiple reviews, and that's a good thing. That shouldn't stress us out. But especially as a younger creative, when I was first kind of earlier in my career, where I would turn something in for a review and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. It's so great. How could it be better? Right? It's this mindset mentality of like, wait, now, like, because whenever then you turn it in, then you get a revision. You're like, oh, I thought it was so good. And it kind of stings a little bit. And you're like, oh, that really
Yeah.
hurts. Right? But now having, I think, a mature designer mindset or mature creative, where the first time you turn something in, that's not going to be the best time. At least we put everything that in, like the content, the image, like the information, layout, the design, the brand, the style guide, whatever it is, all of those assets are in at least like this form or the container of whatever package it is, of a video, of a print flyer or a poster or a social campaign. At least you have a start and you have a base. But now I have a mindset where, especially, I want to keep a teachable heart and a teachable spirit. And so whenever I turn something in, I want it to be better. I want it to be clear, like a clear message also for the consumer, the person who we are trying to bless with this information. And so our team, like the people who, if you have a director or you have another manager, like I would help, people really want to see them as honestly your biggest cheerleader and also like your biggest collaborator. And so that's where I really want to, I don't know, kind of applaud the people who are reviewing my work and really take their feedback, take their advice, and be like, hey, let's make it better together. So you see that shift where you are a team rather than, oh, they're just telling me what to do. Because that's not, that can
Yeah.
get you to spiral a little bit. So you really see it as this way of like, where can we improve better? And going back to the mission of your organization, of your company, your brand, ministry, whatever it is. Remember the service-minded mentality of what you're trying to do. So yeah, and if we go back to the coffee example, we want every single person to get a fresh, beautiful, like delicious tasting cup of coffee every single morning to jumpstart their day or to make their day better or to enhance their day, whatever it is. Or we really want people to connect with other people over a delicious cup of coffee. It can be as simple as that, but going back to that why, I think wisdom is essential for me because if I forget who I'm serving or why I'm designing, I'll just make choices that I'm like, oh, I think that looks cool, but that doesn't mean it's like rooted in purpose or integrity or design integrity. And we really want to make sure that we're not getting too hung up on the details of like nitpicky,
Yeah.
but we want to make sure our message is clear because if we confuse, we are going to lose. And that is something
Yeah.
that we have to remember in our design.
Yeah. Well, you once mentioned seeing beauty in the ordinary. I'm curious, how can everyday objects, gestures, and stories inspire design that feels timeless and relatable? If you could possibly share an example of a design where you saw beauty in the ordinary.
Yeah, I think design is around us every single day. There's so much inspiration if we are actively looking for it and searching for it. And so I remember actually an assignment in college or at university where it was graphic design class. Maybe it was type 1 or type 2 typography class. And our job was to go around the streets of Savannah, Georgia, and that's where college was for me. And we would go around and just find different letter forms in everyday objects. So in the sidewalk, in shop signs, trying to find like an A, a B, like C, any kind of letter form that there was. And I don't know if we created a project exactly out of that, but it definitely created inspiration from just everyday objects and things that we would just normally pass by, where it helped us think critically and differently, where design is so integrated into our everyday lives. And that helps you become a better designer because when you look at the world around you, there is so much intentional and intricate design that you can take back as an inspiration, but you can take to your computer. And again, I think it kind of goes back to the initial question. Sometimes we're so excited and ambitious to like create something digitally, we forget what it's rooted in. And so having a foundation or a way that you get inspiration that is kind of outside of your everyday norm, I think is so impactful and powerful. And especially if it's something you're not super educated about, and then I would encourage people to go to that place, go to that company, or go to that town or city if you can. And if not, then like hop on a call and try and get to, more information and be like, hey, take me around the place. Show me what your everyday life, your day looks like. Because asking those intentional
Yeah.
questions are going to help us discover some of the roadblocks where we want to create clear pathways through our design. So it's all
Yeah.
around us. Yeah.
Well, I love for us to get a bit technical. When choosing colors, typography, and layouts, what guiding principles do you follow to ensure the designs are accessible and flexible?
I love this question too, Wisdom. It's so good.
Thank
Because color is, such a sensitive topic, I feel like today. And I remember working with clients and still sometimes where I can be like, oh, we really love our colors. We really want to hold on to these, but also we have to ask the question, is it accessible? Is it actually meeting the right people? Is it engaging? And the accessibility kind of part where I'd even kind of go one step further rather than just choosing colors and having color theory, which is so important and so crucial and critical. And there's, complementarian color. There's all these different types of colors and color theory, which is so important where you even talked about trust. Okay, blue is a color that really represents trust, but what kind of blue? Not so much royal blue, but maybe more of a muted and kind of less intense blue, but then it's like, I don't know, still founded and rooted where you look at like different industries of like banks or lawyers, even hospitals or kind of doctors, there's these different colors that you kind of see a lot. And even with like fast food companies, there's red where it's like really intense and bright and bold. And so there's all these different things that kind of can trigger different responses and emotions within us, where I think you want to be intentional with your choice, but also I would caution in not wanting to like choose a color just because it is what is expected or done, or to be manipulative. I also think sometimes marketing and advertising can kind of go too extreme in that way, where I really want to create a holistic experience. And so whether that is, starting with color theory, of course, but then taking it one step further with accessibility, you have to really think about even our friends who maybe color looks different to them, with color blindness. And sometimes if we don't go around in the
Yeah.
world that way, then we don't really know how they're experiencing the world. And so because I've had some close friends and some more conversations about that, I really now want to continue to check my colors in that way, where I'm actually being like, oh, how does this look? How does this look in this format? Or what is the contrast percentage? With the company I work with right now, there's this whole accessibility kind of checker where we can look at different contrasts and different weight thicknesses with typography and our color and then gradients. And that is such a helpful resource. And so I know that could take a lot of time and feel daunting to do, but I would encourage people, especially if it's a multi kind of level organization where you're putting out a ton of content, then something like that could be a really great resource for you and your team, because you're going to be mindful of accessibility and having that at the forefront of your mind, because good design is accessible to everyone. And we also have to think about our PDFs. How are those accessible to, people who can't see necessarily, to our friends in the deaf or blind community? Different things of how can, the ways that things are auditory, how does that come across, and things that are not, and having closed captions, having different ways that even our documents are formatted where it is read correctly on a screen reader as well. So there's so many things I feel like I'm still learning a lot in that. And so even the correct terminology, I feel like I've only been educated in the past couple of years, and I wish that was something that was taught more in, I think, my specific kind of university level classes. But again, I think it was a newer thing at the time. And so I think that's also another thing as a designer, is to continuously be learning and growing, and to never stop, to never stop learning and always continuing to see new ways. And with technology and AI and all those things, how can you use it in a strategic way, but not compensate your integrity of design and your unique design style, tone, and voice? And so there's so much more of a bigger conversation that's happening that I think a lot of us designers and creatives are having on design and accessibility. And I think this is just a really great first start of that.
Yeah. Whoa. That was a detailed breakdown. Thank you so much, Adi.
Hey, I'm happy to share what I've learned.
Hey, quick break. Before we continue, I'd love for you to join the Wisdom Journey newsletter. Every week, I share exclusive insights, tools, and behind-the-scenes updates to help you stay ahead in your own journey of building an online business. It's simple, practical, and built to help you grow. Sign up today for free at the link in the description. Now, let's get back to the episode. Yeah. How do you approach for some brands when they design things? They have a good, good logo, but so you go to their website, something entirely different. Go to their social media, something entirely different. How do you approach creating visuals that stay consistent across mediums, social media, print, website, without losing their soul or want?
Yeah. Oh man, this is such a great question, because I think it goes back to that. Yeah, of course. It's so good, because you have to go back to that intentional design, even from the beginning, from that mood board, from the sketch, from the concept, because we have to think about, before we get too far into the digital design of something where we're like, oh, I love this logo. This is the one we're gonna, flesh out, where I just, went so far to this one way, like down this road, I can't even see anything else that might be good. And that can be a really big danger just in the design process, because if we don't test it against scalability and visibility, then we can kind of pigeonhole ourselves where we're going to have a different logo for our Instagram, our Facebook, for our YouTube, and for our main website. And now there are different logo types in the way where we have a primary logo, a secondary logo, and then an icon or logo mark. And so there are ways that can be used strategically, but sometimes these like finite and minute details of logos where you zoom in. I just saw a reel the other day, Wisdom. You zoom in and it's like there's a pencil like on one of the letter
Oh,
forms, and it's like so
yeah,
tiny, right? And so it's like, wait a minute,
yeah,
how can we restructure this to maybe be like where the pencil is a part of the logo or it's more integrated into it rather than just this tiny, tiny detail where we're going to miss visibility and scalability. And so that is something that is so critical, I would say, and you have to test it against a lot of other eyes. And that can be daunting and scary. But again, we have that mindset of growth where we want to continuously improve. We want to serve our community or our audience or the world better, whoever that is. And so you really have to make sure that your logo suite is what we would call that, is really comprehensive and has a lot of detail, but also it's simple. And good design is simple, clear, and effective. And so make sure you have that primary logo, secondary logo, and then you can have an icon or visual mark that it can be a part of those logos, but there are different orientations and ways to use all those. So then to kind of wrap that up, you have your primary logo on all of your website, your mainly printed things. But then there might be a different orientation for maybe different orientations of landscape, whatever it is. But then maybe an icon is on social media. So then you're more recognizable by that. But again, clear and consistent design is always the key.
I okay. If if someone's starting from scratch, how can they build a visual system that can grow with them as their business or brand evolves?
Starting from scratch. Well, every creative has been in that position where you have to start from nothing, started from scratch. I think that's one thing that my college or university at SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, did really well, where we had to build and design everything from the bottom up. And that I can remind our friends listening and also a reminder to myself that there was no AI at the time. And of course, there was like clip art and different things you could try and pull different art, but even that was like not allowed. And so we had to
Yeah,
build everything from scratch. And now I don't want to say in the real world, but realistically, as technology has changed and shifted and evolved, you kind of realize most of the time you're not going to have enough time to build and start from scratch realistically, just because of deadlines and demand and clients and things. Just the real reality of how fast the world moves. But also, now with AI, there are some helpful things where you have a sounding board. I would use it as that, where you can bounce ideas off of AI. Be like, hey, I'm thinking about this. Like, what are some other possible title ideas for maybe a YouTube video or for this social post or, different things or for this campaign? There's ways to use it strategically, but especially using like in building a brand, I would use that with helpful of like cultivating your data and insights and research in that way, but not so much relying on it for the design integrity again, where you can have like maybe some visual prompts kind of fleshed out just really quickly. But I would be very weary to design anything within AI before you actually build out your mood board and your research and either present to the client, or if in this case you are your own client, before you build that out for yourself and give yourself like a
yeah,
couple of days to visually like think on it and like let your eyes rest. Because when we come back to things with fresh eyes, we can see it in a totally different light and perspective. And just giving time, you want to space that out where you have time to review, time to reflect. And then, of course, you can be like, hey, I have this one sketch. I mean, I think, or if you like, we would do like maybe 50 logo iterations of sketches and things and just kind of brainstorm. Then there could be really helpful ways with AI of like, hey, can you help me digitize all of these right now? And just like get like a starting building block. But also ask the question, do you have to do that? Because if you're only still choosing three to design and kind of experiment with, then really it shouldn't be that much work in the sense of where you can't manually do it by yourself in a design way. But again, using the AI, I think, to your advantage if you're starting from scratch. But then again, you're not going to be able to learn design and like kind of discover your own creative voice if you don't practice and put in the hours and do the work, if that makes sense. And so it's a hard thing to kind of know that tension of how to balance it. But, with anything, how can we use technology in a good way that's positive, but also where we don't compromise our own design style, integrity, and even voice in that way too.
Well, one of the things I want you to touch on is, AI. AI is, it's a tool that is getting better and better every day. What's your approach towards AI when it comes to the design?
Yeah, well, I know a lot of designers, especially if you're a social media designer or I wouldn't necessarily say it if you're a copywriter, because I know my friends who are copywriters, words are even more precious and important. And so I think for those of us who are trying to wear a lot of different hats, whether you are a videographer, photographer, graphic designer, social media manager as well, like there are a lot of buckets even within all that. And so I look at AI of like, okay, I do a lot of those things. How can I simplify my life, but not totally replace the organic creativity where I'm still coming up with a lot of the organic or, in like intuitive ideas, whether in
Yeah.
conversations or within friends. But I'm not just like making it do my homework for me, right? Like we're still
Yeah.
being creative and putting that thinking cap on. Adobe Max is going on right now and we're recording this, and that is such a great resource for all of our friends listening where they have Adobe Max online for free. And that's what I've done probably almost every year. And the last 2 years, there has been about AI, and even I don't know how many sessions I went to, there was so much about AI, but it was using like those kind of expediting those mundane tasks where we can get lost in the weeds. So like, for example, this was such a cool thing where they had a flyer. I think it was in Adobe Express, which I don't use too much because I usually use InDesign and Illustrator. But for a quick social media graphic, they were actually making like a flyer for a party, and they took a flyer from like a summer design and they changed it all the way to like a, kind of a Halloween party, if you will, kind of a spooky kind of trick or treat thing. And the coolest thing though is that the AI prompt, the designer just put in like, hey, this is when the date is, this is when the time is, this is where the place is. I want to change all this text. Like you don't have to hit like say super specifically, but just like, hey, I want to change this to like the following text. And it just like automatically updated it. And so if I could tell you how much tedious time, like, oh, I need to change the date, I need to change the time, I need to change the title of this thing. There's things like that that don't feel like they're really big, but in a designer's world, there have been so many like tedious revisions like that where you can just think about, wow, how could that actually maximize our output time or different revision time, kind of a turnover where it's faster, quicker revisions, things like that. And even with like video editing, like the coolest thing where you can be recording in a whole room of people talking or maybe out in the subway. I don't know. I mean, it seems to be really, really great where, and, AI can take this noise reduction, and take where you sound like you're recording in like a very well recorded room or studio kind of level quality where it gets rid of all that background noise. So when I think about AI, I look at it this way where we're taking away some of those pain points of our everyday or more mundane kind of operating tasks where we really get to focus more on the design and the creativity. Where then if you want like a mural from a wall, this one girl had this kind of prompt where it was just a video of this really cool mural in kind of Los Angeles area, and there's like a turtle, and then she like made the video kind of convert where like the turtle came off from the wall and just like started swimming into like the video of the sky. And it's like, okay, well that's really cool. That's really creative. I probably won't be able to do that because I'm not like a super great motion designer, but with AI, you can kind of experiment and have fun with these things or mask out different images and totally kind of regenerate different video clips where you don't have to go back into the studio or back out into, onto location and reshoot. So for things like that, where it can help save like a tremendous amount of time where it's like, oh wait, we just want to get this one shot differently. That's going to be a huge kind of lifesaver and honestly a game changer when it comes to design and really just kind of reshaping how we work and how we kind of format different things and kind of build a campaign from the ground up where we don't have to go back out and spend a whole another day of doing things. We can just try it and be able to implement it right there and then. So really looking at design as a tool to add to not replace your creativity.
Oh, thank you for sharing how you approach AI in design. I'm curious, when you feel creatively blocked, how do you sustain creativity?
Hmm. This again is such an important question. I really think with creatives, especially with our mental health, our emotional, our spiritual health, I think a lot of creatives, they have to be anchored into something. And for me, that is absolutely my faith in Jesus. And so for me, I have to, make sure that there is a good relational health with my peers, my community, with people who are close to me, but especially for me, for my relationship with God. That is a huge thing. And so for me, we talked about like this kind of design, just out in nature when we go out into the world. And for me, I kind of live in the country in America, in a small town. And I just go out to the woods and my dog and I mean, seeing a beautiful sunrise or sunset, that really re-inspires me and rejuvenates me. But really one of the bigger things is just like getting time away and away from kind of the noise and the voices and as of the world that can be really strong and powerful in marketing or advertising and design. And really going back to the service mentality and mindset, because for me, when I look to my faith, I see how service was a huge part of it. And that is why I want to design better and clear, where it provides a service to people. And it's not only a compelling message, but it brings people together in a way that they didn't expect. And it builds this community. But also, it is such a clear message where it actually improves their quality of life. When I think about different design that I love and I keep going back to, where I'm a repeat customer, if you will, it actually enhances my quality of life. And I have this community built around it. And so if I'm able to do that for someone else through this gift of service that I honestly have been given, then I want to do that as best as I can. And so, of course, that's definitely traveling when I am able to hang out with friends, all those things, or a meal, shared at my favorite restaurant. All those things, of course. But for me, the biggest thing is my faith and being rooted in that.
I'm currently calling from a workspace, so I had to mute and unmute my mic. The place is quite noisy.
You're okay. You're okay.
I did prepare a lightning round, sets of lightning round questions for you. You ready?
Awesome. I'm ready. This sounds so fun.
Okay. What's your favorite color palette that feels like you?
Say it one more time for me. Sorry.
What's your favorite color palette that feels
Color
like you?
palette. Yes. Okay. Well, so if you go to I guess really within Gentle and Lowly Co. and Addison Ott, it's Addison Ott, my personal brand doesn't have it as much, but there is definitely an influence from like CMYK, just cyan, magenta, black, and all of those things where if you go to hold on, let me see it now. I'm gonna have to look it up. But my favorite colors are very evident to me. Where from my Addison Ott kind of personal brand, it's like this red, two different blues, and yellow, and then Gentle and Lowly Co. It's very prevalent where it's these fun, kind of vibrant colors, but they're like a kind of a pastel, where some blue, green, yellow, and pink and stuff. And so they're really like a fun vibrancy, but also a playfulness, if you will. So that's definitely kind of the way that I gravitate towards. But I like that it's grounded in CMYK, cyan, magenta, black,
Well,
and yellow.
thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What's a quote that anchors your design philosophy?
Ooh, this is so good. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna have to look it up. All the wild world's beautiful. Okay. So John Muir is I'd say a famous poet. And this quote, this is actually in one of my books when I went to Canada. I did this photographic book. And so I'm going to read this quote. It says, "All the wild world is beautiful, and it matters but little where we go, to highlands or lowlands, woods or plains, on the sea or land, or down among the crystals of the waves, or high in a balloon in the sky, through all the climates, hot or cold, storms and calms, everywhere and always, we are in God's eternal beauty and love." So that's by John
Yeah.
Muir, and I love his stuff, and that one is definitely inspiring to me.
Thank you for sharing that quote with us.
Yeah.
The final question: what's one underrated design principle everyone should know?
Oh, this is so great. And again, I feel like I learned so much on Instagram just following different creatives, and I love different things where I'm like, "Oh wait, I did learn that. That is a principle." And so there's so many good creatives who are educators and leading. And so definitely, I feel like be inspired, like have your Instagram or your social media be a place where you want to learn. But one of those principles where, of course, I think I mentioned, always growing, always learning, but from like the core of design of when you actually learn the grid kind of structure or starting with a grid within your design, whether it's an Illustrator, whether it's an InDesign, usually it's more an InDesign with like typography and layout. But when you actually understand that everything is built on a grid, you can really have a clear understanding and sense of hierarchy and visual hierarchy. And so once I kind of got to understand and learn that concept and like really practice it, I can't see like a fly or anything else the way like without the grid now. And so that is a huge thing whenever I open up a new document, start from scratch. Having those grids and guides and lines is such a helpful practice where your design is going to be actually rooted in something that's, tangible. It's going to help you have that hierarchy, which is going to help you have a clear and concise message where we want to serve people really well. So embrace the grid.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Adi, for sharing with us some of your design wisdom, unintended. Uh, where can listeners learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah, Wisdom, thank you so much for this opportunity. It is so much fun to talk all about this. Of course, been doing it a long time, and I'm really excited just to keep growing and learning. And with our friends listening, if they want to follow more about what I'm doing, my personal brand is addisonott.com. And so that's ADDISONOTT.com. And you'll find everything I'm doing, kind of my creative journey, my projects previously and currently. And then on the side, right now, I'm also building, outside of my full-time work, a company called Gentle and Lowly Co. And so Gentle is spelled Gentle, and Co, as in company, oh, lowly, Lowly, and then Co, with a period, Gentle and Lowly Co. And we do have a podcast, as Wisdom mentioned in the beginning. And so you can come, have more conversations over there, really talk about faith and kind of our walk and relationship with Jesus. If you want to, come and learn more about that, that's definitely the place we're doing that. But then within that business, we sell Christian apparel and t-shirts and encouraging and kind of everyday accessories to help you do just that. And so I do a lot of work over there as well, but you can learn more about my writing and kind of speaking and things over at addisonott.com. It's the best place to get connected with me. Then if you're on Instagram, we can be friends at addie.ott. So ADDIE.OTT.
Well, thank you so much, Adi. I'll put the links you mentioned in the description so listeners can click and go directly to the site. It's
Yeah.
been an absolute delight listening to you chat about design.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Wisdom. It has been a joy and my pleasure to have this conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning into Wisdom Journey. I hope today's episode gave you practical steps and fresh ideas to keep moving forward. If you found value, be sure to subscribe and share this podcast with a fellow creator or entrepreneur who'd love to learn too. And don't forget to sign up for the newsletter and the link in the description for more resources, experiments, and lessons straight to your inbox. Until next time, keep building, keep learning, and keep walking your own wisdom journey. Yeah.